From the revered Pilchuck studio to his collaborations with glass master Dale Chihuly, Dan has become a highly respected and collected glass artist. As he immerses himself into the art of glass blowing, he also holds on to his native culture, traditions, and beliefs, passing on the beauty and artistry of his craft to the next generation.
We grew up pretty poor, but we were in the city, you know,
same
and so the food bank, like
yeah.
Goodwill, you know, like all that.
You have some options.
There's something, you know,
Yeah,
you
it's
can
true.
get odd jobs.
Art has really allowed us to kind of transcend a lot of those wild party years. Not that, you know, we survived it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So how did you get into glass blowing?
It's kind of an interesting story. I was a mechanic. I'd gone to trade school. I've always been an artist. It's a big tradition in my family, but it just didn't really seem pragmatic, or like I need shoes and I'm hungry and I've got to find a place to live. I was on the street pretty early. But when I walked into a glass shop to meet somebody, I was dropping off a bag, you know, and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing in here? And I just knew right away, I'm like, I could work with that. What's cool about glass is really similar to a lot of our traditional workings is it's like an apprenticeship sort of thing. You've got to learn from someone, you have a mentor, 10,000 hours, that sort of thing too.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's kind of the last bastion of apprenticeship, because even if you go to art school like Pilchuck, right,
Yeah.
you're still going to have to start at the bottom.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the paper, a degree isn't going to buy you much,
Yeah.
right?
Glass blowing is more like a fire drill. Like you show up, everything's got to be on time. You've got to hit these like benchmarks along the way. If something doesn't go right, there's no taking it back. You can't erase it. It's like permanently recorded in the glass piece, and you can work for hours on a piece and still lose it. I mean, it's glass, it breaks. But in that, there's such a great, I think that's another thing that people don't see about a glass piece, is that behind the scenes choreography that took place. And a lot of times when we're working as a team, it's like you're dancing with a dance partner. You don't want to step on their feet,
Right.
or being in a band, you don't want to be out of tune. And the satisfaction that comes when a piece comes out well, it means you've kind of gone through this series of steps where everything went well. And a lot of times you're not talking about the piece, you're just kind of like on this level with each other. Like, and it's either a nod yes or a nod no. It's like I'm ready or I'm not,
Right.
and being connected like that is what draws a lot of people into glass making.
So let's talk about this piece, because what I've represented glass artists, but I don't think I've ever seen patterns like this. And how do you actually do this then?
Yeah, so this is called a lightning bear, and this is done with canes. And so cane work is historically, it's like a Venetian glass technique. These are opaque canes, so you don't really see through the bear. It's not as transparent as some of these other pieces. But, you know, that's another thing that I really like is telling my family's stories in glass, is a medium that is not new, but new to us, you know. And so this sort of intersection, or this crossroads of Venetian glass blowing and telling these Coast Salish stories, or telling my great-grandfather's stories, really brings me a lot of joy. In Coast Salish, we don't have clans like in the northern side, but we do have like a spirit or a family we're from, just like the Swan family, or we're the Bear family. My great-great-grandfather, Hey Tuluk, Osiam, is the bear, and the Hilaire bear, that's kind of our family crest, if you will.
Do you identify with the bear?
I'm a bear.
I kind of got that.
Yeah, I got that bear vibe, don't I?
You do, a little bit.
As we bring our journey to a close in the vibrant city of Seattle, I find myself overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the stories and talents that have unfolded before us. The indigenous tribes who have inhabited this land for countless generations have left a mark on the cultural tapestry of Seattle. Despite being pushed out of their ancestral region, the spirit of their heritage never waned, And today we witness their extraordinary ability to reclaim their rightful place through the medium of art and culture. Seattle, a city bearing the name of a chief, is a constant reminder that the Indigenous people never truly left. Instead, they have withstood the tides of history, preserving their traditions and holding steadfast in their commitment to pass them down to future generations.
It's a great feeling in my heart to be there for my community. I'm always going to be here for them, taking care of everybody when I can.
It's all in a day's work for Canada's only Indigenous Coast Guard auxiliary. Protecting the waters, its communities, and preserving culture.
With the new generation, they will know what to do with this land.
No job is too big for the Ocean Warriors, Tuesday, 7:30 on NITV and SBS On Demand.
You might be cold, but have you ever been Canadian ice fisher cold?
I know people say, don't panic, but go through the ice and tell me what you think. I've been through 3 times. It's a blink of an eye.
Reel them up, boys.
Crack in and catch the coolest show on TV.
Every day it's a different challenge. This is the coldest day of the year so far.
Ice Vikings on NITV and SBS On Demand.
Dear Mom, we had such a weird, mysterious, spectacular day.
Step into worlds you have to see to believe.
You should know that every now and then strange occurrences do happen here.
6 films from the masters of magic.
Hey! Over here!
Studio Ghibli family movies. Fridays, 7:30 on NITV and SBS On Demand.
The very foundation of the treaties is land.
The narrative that many of us have been taught is that through the treaties, the First Nations people surrendered their land.
Cede, release, surrender, yield up. Those are not concepts that echo a system of values that exists for Anishinaabe.
Almost 7 years ago now, discovering my Métis heritage when my biological father passed away, I connected with his sister, my aunt. She recommended that I read a couple of books on my ancestor, my great-grandfather ×3, who is the Honorable James Mackay. So I learned a little bit about who he was as a person and his relationship to the signing of the treaties. I realized at that moment that I really had no understanding of what the treaties were all about.
My knowledge on treaties is that I didn't have the privilege to avoid the impacts of treaty. The broken promises of the treaty have impacted my family in such a way that you can't ignore those things. So in a way, it is a privilege for those who benefit from the treaty and don't have to learn about what the treaties are.
In the back of my mind, I have a feeling like there might be another side of him that tells a story of maybe not being completely genuine and honest with all parties involved, and I want to explore that.
There was never any intention to honor the treaties.
So we're here in Winnipeg. This is where the first treaty was signed. This is where my ancestors are from. This is essentially where the history of Western Canada starts. Hey,
hi.
How's it going?
It's going really good.
So, are you excited to go on this journey?
I definitely am. I mean, considering that I'm pregnant, future generations are on my mind.
That's cool. I'm really not sure what we've got ourselves into with this, but I'm excited to learn.
There's a lot to learn.
When I first started reading about James Mackay, everything that I read about him gave him a lot of praise and built him up to be a really amazing person who did a lot of wonderful things.
I think to understand James Mackay and who he is, it requires a little understanding of the period. And that was a period really before the Canadian government assumed control of the West. So it's this unique period between the 1830s and 1870s, which is really the height of sort of Métis fluorescence. He was a fur trader, he was a businessman, he was a politician, he was a diplomat, I think, in many ways.
You know, I thought this is great to have an ancestor who's done all these wonderful things to help form this country. That was my initial thought.
You know, I heard that he was a commissioner involved with the treaty negotiations and eventual signings. And my preconceived notion is that, yeah, I don't know that I would be really fond or like this person a lot, considering what has come out of the treaties in present day and historically. So yeah, I was thinking, how do I confront this now that I'm here with his great grandson ×3, who's my friend? You know, how can I look Saxon in the eye and say, your grandfather did some really terrible things potentially to my people? So that was really hard to think about on this journey.
So I've asked you to join me at this specific spot for a reason, because this is actually where James Mackay lived. This is a place called Deer Lodge. It was his home, but it was also a meeting place for First Nations chiefs to come and meet with Canadian government officials. And the plaque indicates his role in the numbered treaty signings.
Mackay was an interpreter, so his role was to simply translate or interpret the negotiations. When we think about what was at stake in those treaties, you know, the worldviews, the question around even, is cede and surrender a term that can be translated into Indigenous languages and concepts?
We had the opportunity to meet with Frankie Bolio. You know, it's really important when we're in somebody else's territory to find somebody like Frankie who is connected and who could tell you what's what within a territory.
Oh, miwich.
Frankie.
Nice to meet you. Well, thank you so much for welcoming us to Treaty 1 territory. It's an honor to be here.
Treaty 1 is formed by 7 First Nations: Sandy Bay First Nations, Long Plain First Nation, Swan Lake First Nation, Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, Peguis First Nation, Saugeen First Nation, Roseau River First Nation.
And what do you do for Treaty 1?
I work closely with the leaderships and the elders. So I do translations and interpreting for the chiefs, for the elders, and then to the general public. So I read and write, and I translate and speak.
I find that really, really interesting, because part of the journey that we're going on is to find out more about my ancestor, who during the signing of the treaties, Treaty 1 through 6, was an interpreter and a translator. And that is essentially what you do today.
Yes, and I'm glad that you do this kind of work, because it's going to go on forever, you know, your generation to generation.
Frankie, is there a word for treaty or treaties or agreements in Anishinaabe?
Treaty 1 is Nitam Aguitinan. Nitam Aguitinan. First treaties.
Where is it that you think that we should go next on our